What's up, guys? So today we'll continue our series Super Jesus, and today we are going to be looking at Jesus' psychic abilities. Yes, you heard me right. Now, before I continue, I want to share something with you regarding psychic abilities, and that is that psychic abilities, depending on the medium, can range widely. I mean, if you're looking at comics, for example, you're going to see many different superpowers that you're going to be seeing within the realm of psychic. When it comes to anime, right, it goes to the point, like if you look at Mob Psycho, for example, they use psychic abilities as a catch-all, and you're seeing people using elemental powers like fire and ice in relation to psychic abilities. But in this case, we're going to stick to a little bit more of the traditional kind of psychic abilities. We're talking about empaths, we're talking about telekinesis, things of that nature. All right, so let's get started. All right, so the first example that we're going to be going over today is when Jesus is about to be arrested, and this is found in John 18. And it says here in verse 3, the leading priests and Pharisees had given Judas a contingent of Roman soldiers and temple guards to accompany him. Now, with blazing torches, lanterns, and weapons, they arrived at the Olive Grove. Man, these guys are pagan, right? So it says, Jesus fully realized all that was going to happen to him, so he stepped forward to meet them. Who are you looking for? He said. Jesus the Nazarene, they replied. I am he, Jesus said. And here we go. It says, Judas, who betrayed him, was standing with them. As Jesus said, I am he, they all drew back and fell to the ground. Once more, Jesus asked them, who are you looking for? And again, they replied, Jesus the Nazarene. All right, guys, so the first example that we see here of Jesus using his psychic powers is actually when he says, I am he, and these guys fully fall back. This is actually one of the more common examples of psychic abilities that we see, right? Telekinesis, where you are using your will to make a object or somebody move according to what you want, right? We see this in comic books, we see this in anime, right? We see it in One Punch Man with that short little girl. She uses her abilities. Or we see it in One Piece, right? When they use haki, right? They use their spiritual power, as you will, to instill their will on others. All right, so the next example is found in Mark chapter 1, starting in verse 23. So this is Jesus here. He is in the town of Capernaum, and it says here that the people were amazed at his teaching, for he taught with authority, quite unlike the teachers of the religious law. So the first thing that we learn about Jesus is that his teachings, how he carries himself, is unlike any other, right? So Jesus is definitely unique, and it's something that they hadn't seen before. And verse 23 says, suddenly a man in the synagogue who was possessed by an evil spirit cried out, why are you interfering with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God. But Jesus reprimanded him. Be quiet. Come out of that man, he ordered. At that, the evil spirit screamed, threw the man into a convulsion, and then came out of him. So guys, here we see the next example where Jesus uses his psychic abilities, and in this case, it is against an evil spirit that was tormenting a man, and he drives this demon out. So the next example is found in Mark chapter 5, where this man is being tormented by an evil spirit. It says that he was basically tormenting the city in a way. He was chained up. He would break out of the chains. And let's look at the interaction between him and Jesus. It says in verse 6, when Jesus was still some distance away, the man saw him, ran to meet him, and bowed low before him. With a shriek, he screamed, why are you interfering with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In the name of God, I beg you, don't torture me. For Jesus had already said to the spirit, come out of that man, you evil spirit. Then Jesus demanded, what is your name? And he replied, my name is Legion, because there are many of us inside this man. Then the evil spirit begged him again and again not to send them to some distant place. There happened to be a large herd of pigs feeding in the hillside nearby. Send us into those pigs, the spirits begged. Let us enter them. So Jesus gave them permission. The evil spirits came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the entire herd of about 2,000 pigs plug down the steep hillside into the lake and drown in the water. So it's interesting here that the spirits fear Jesus. They're asking him for permission. They're telling him to not send them away, to let them do this. And Jesus, in this case, he does this. We don't really see why, but we do see here that Jesus does prevail over these evil spirits, and he casts them out of that man, saving his life. So the next example that we see here is in Matthew chapter 9, where a group of people bring a paralyzed man to Jesus, and Jesus tells him here, your sins are forgiven. And in this case, the Pharisees get mad, right? Because only God has the power to forgive sins. And this is what Jesus says. It says here, Jesus knew what they were thinking, so he asked them, why do you have such evil thoughts in your hearts? Is it easier to say your sins are forgiven or stand up and walk? So I will prove to you that the Son of Man has the authority on earth to forgive sins. Then Jesus turned to the paralyzed man and said, stand up, pick up your mat, and go home. And the man jumped up and went home. So Jesus here, he's like, excuse you? Who do you think you are? I'm going to prove to you my authority here on earth. So regardless of what they were thinking, regardless of what they're saying, he tells this man, hey, I forgive your sins. Stand up and walk. But the key point here is that Jesus was able to read and see their thoughts, even before they're actually able to speak them out. The next and final example here happens in John chapter 13. And again, this has to do with Jesus knowing the thoughts of people. And this is actually when Jesus says that somebody is going to betray them. So look at what it says here. And it says, so the disciples are questioning who is Jesus talking about that is going to betray him. And verse 26 says, Jesus responded, it is the one whom I give the bread I dip in the bowl. And when he had dipped it, he gave it to Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. When Judas had eaten the bread, Satan entered into him. Then Jesus told him, hurry and do what you are going to do. So in this case, it's kind of interesting because we have two things going on. We see that Jesus is able to see the evil spirit, the devil that enters Judas, and he is also able to read their minds. He knows exactly what they're going to do, and that's why he tells them, go, hurry up, and do what you're going to do. All right, guys. Well, I hope that you had fun with this one. It took me a little bit to put this one together. I hope that you guys are having fun. Let me know any other miracles that you want me to cover. And as always, I just want to remind you that we must persevere.